All right, so it looks like you're in the market for a new laptop, one that can handle all your graphic design needs.
Definitely.
And you've sent over a list of 7 contenders. Wow. Apple, HP Acer, Lenovo Asus, and
It's good mix.
even MSI. Looks like we've got some gaming machines in the mix too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a real mix of specs and styles to unpack here. What do you say?
Ah,
Ready to dive in?
let's do it.
Okay, first up is the 2024 MacBook Air. Sleek
Of course.
and stylish as always, coming in at $1,491. It boasts Apple's new M3 chip, a 15.3-inch Liquid Retina display, 16 GB of unified memory, and 512 gigabytes of SSD storage.
Now, you mentioned unified memory. Can you break that down for me? What does that mean for someone using graphic design software?
Yeah, great question. Unified memory means that the RAM and graphics memory share the same pool of resources,
Okay.
which can make for faster performance and smoother multitasking, especially when you're working with large files and complex applications like Photoshop or Illustrator.
Right. Think of it like having a dedicated express lane for your design data.
Gotcha. Okay, and the reviews for this MacBook Air have been pretty glowing, highlighting its portability and user-friendliness, especially for those already in the Apple ecosystem.
But
But
there's always a but.
there's always a but, right? One review mentioned a non-functional fingerprint reader right out of the box.
Oof. Yeah. That's definitely not ideal, especially at that price point.
Right.
It might be an isolated incident, but it's something to keep in mind. It raises the question of quality control,
Yeah.
and you definitely want a machine that's reliable, especially when you're relying on it for professional work.
For sure. Reliability is key. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the HP Stream laptop.
Okay.
This one's a real budget-friendly option at $309,
Yeah, super accessible.
and it packs a surprising punch for the price. 14-inch HD display, Intel Celeron processor, a whopping 16 gigabytes of RAM,
Oh, wow.
and 288 gigabytes of storage.
Now, hold on a second. There's a bit of a storage trick here. 128 gigabit of that storage is eMMC, which is like a big SD card built into the laptop. It's cheaper, but also slower than a traditional SSD.
Oh, I see.
The other 160 gigabyte comes from a docking station, which adds bulk and isn't exactly portable.
So not the most ideal setup for a graphic designer who might be working with large files on the go.
Right.
And what about those user reviews that mentioned glitches and slow file transfers?
Yeah. Those are valid concerns.
Oh.
eMMC storage can be a bottleneck,
Okay.
especially for graphic design work that demands fast read and write speeds.
Mm-hmm.
And the Intel Celeron processor, while capable for basic tasks,
Right.
might struggle with more demanding design software.
You also mentioned something about Windows S mode in the user reviews. What's the deal with that?
Yes. Windows S Mode is like a streamlined version of Windows,
Okay.
prioritizing security and performance, but limiting you to apps from the Microsoft Store.
Huh.
This can be a problem for graphic designers because many professional design tools aren't available in the Microsoft Store. You might end up having to switch out of S Mode, which can be a hassle.
Got it. So while the HP Stream might be tempting at that price point, it might not be the best long-term investment
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
for a graphic designer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to a laptop that's definitely designed for more demanding tasks. The Acer Nitro 5.
Okay, bring on the power.
This one comes in at $770, and it's clearly geared towards the gaming crowd.
Yeah.
With an Intel i5 processor, an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050 Ti graphics card,
Right.
a 15.6-inch FHD 144 Hz display, 16 gigabyte of DDR4 RAM, and a 512 GB SSD.
Now we're talking. The Acer Nitro 5 offers a lot of power for the price, especially with that RTX 3050 Ti graphics card. It can handle a decent amount of graphic design work.
Right.
But you might want to consider a step up if you're working with complex 3D models or doing heavy video editing.
Reviewers seem to love the sharp display and efficient cooling system, which is important for a gaming laptop.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That can get pretty hot.
Absolutely.
But one review mentioned the dreaded black screen of death.
Yeah, that's a bit concerning. The black screen of death can be a sign of various issues, from driver conflicts to hardware failures.
Right.
It's hard to say how widespread the problem is based on a single review,
Yeah.
but it's definitely worth investigating further.
For sure. Okay, next up we have the Lenovo V15 laptop priced at $489.
Okay.
This one boasts an AMD Ryzen 5 5500U hexa-core processor, 16 GB of RAM, a spacious 512 GB SSD, and a 15.6-inch FHD display.
Nice.
Reviewers consistently praise its speed responsiveness and snappy Wi-Fi connection, but they really aren't fans of the webcam.
The Ryzen 5 5500U is a solid processor that offers great performance for the price.
Okay.
It's comparable to the Intel i5 processors we've seen in some of the other laptops. It's great for multitasking and can handle most graphic design tasks without breaking a sweat.
So maybe not the best choice for video calls?
Probably not.
But if our listener primarily uses their laptop for design work,
Yeah.
a subpar webcam might not be a deal breaker.
Right, exactly.
All right, let's talk gaming powerhouses.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
First up is the Asus ROG Strix, priced at $817. This one packs a punch with an Intel i7-136750HX processor, an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4060 graphics card, 16 GB of DDR5 RAM, a 1 TB SSD, and a 16-inch FHD 165Hz display.
Wow, that's a seriously impressive machine. The RTX 4060 is a significant step up from the 3050 Ti we saw on the Acer Nitro 5.
Right.
It can handle demanding graphic design workloads, even those involving 3D modeling and video editing, with ease.
And it's got 1 TB of SSD storage. That's enough space to store a whole design studio's worth of files.
That's a lot of files.
But what about that 165Hz refresh rate? Is that overkill for graphic design?
It's definitely more than you need for static design work.
Okay.
But it can be beneficial for tasks like creating animations or working with video. However, that high refresh rate will also drain your battery faster.
Right.
It's a trade-off between smoothness and battery life.
Makes sense. All right, let's check out the other gaming contender, the MSI Thin 15. It's also priced at $817 and features an Intel Core i7 and 12650H, an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4050 16 GB of DDR5 RAM, a 512 GB SSD, and a 15.6-inch 144Hz FHD display. Reviewers love its speed, even comparing it to a PS5, but they point out its tendency to get hot.
The MSI Thin 15 is another powerhouse machine. The RTX 4050, while not as powerful as the RTX 4060 and the Asus ROG Strix,
Okay.
is still more than capable of handling demanding design tasks. However, as you mentioned, heat can be an issue with these powerful gaming laptops.
And how important is a good cooling system for graphic designers?
It's crucial. Graphic design work can push a laptop's processor and graphics card pretty hard, generating a lot of heat. Overheating can lead to performance throttling, which means your laptop will slow down to avoid damage. In the long run, it can even shorten the lifespan of your components.
So a good cooling system can make a big difference in the performance and longevity of a laptop, especially for graphic design work. Got it. And finally, we have the Lenovo Flex 5 laptop, a 2.8 priced at $590. It features an AMD Ryzen 5 5500U 16 GB of RAM, a 256 GB SSD, and a 14-inch FHD touch display. Reviewers love its speed and responsiveness, but some have mentioned issues with the tablet mode functionality.
The Ryzen 5 5500U is a familiar face.
Right.
And it's a great processor for the price. 16 GB of RAM is also a good amount for multitasking.
Yeah.
And running design software smoothly. However, 256 GB of storage might be a bit limiting.
Yeah, you might find yourself running out of storage space pretty quickly, especially if you're dealing with high-resolution images and videos.
Yeah, that's true.
You'd probably need to invest in an external hard drive or cloud storage.
Definitely.
And you mentioned some reviewers experience issues with the tablet mode functionality. That's something to consider if you're thinking of using the touch and draw features extensively for your design work.
For sure.
So while the Lenovo Flex 5 offers that tempting 2-in-1 flexibility, it might not be the most reliable option for professional-level graphic design.
I'd probably agree with that.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've got a great overview of each laptop specs, pros and cons, and even uncovered a few potential red flags.
We did.
But how do we know which laptop will actually make our listeners' design dreams come true?
That's a great question. Let's move on to part 2 and delve deeper into the key decision-making factors.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, so we've walked through the specs and the user feedback on these 7 laptops.
We have.
Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. What are the essential ingredients for a graphic design laptop?
Well, based on what we've discussed, it seems like processing power, RAM storage, and graphics are all key players. But where do we draw the line between nice to have and absolutely essential?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Let's start with the processor.
Okay.
The brain of the operation. For graphic design, you want a processor that can handle multitasking running, demanding software like Photoshop and Illustrator, and rendering images and videos smoothly. The AMD Ryzen 5 5500U and Intel i5 processors. We saw in a few of these laptops are excellent starting points.
Okay.
They can handle most design tasks without breaking a sweat.
And if you need even more power, The Intel i7 processors and the Asus ROG Strix and MSI Thin 15 will definitely deliver.
Oh, for sure.
But wouldn't that extra power also drain the battery faster?
It's true that more powerful processors tend to use more energy.
Right.
But modern laptops are getting better at balancing performance and battery life.
Okay.
Plus, if you're mainly working at your desk, battery life might not be as big of a concern.
Good point. Okay, what about RAM? 16 GB life seems to be the sweet spot for most of these laptops.
Yeah.
Is that enough for graphic design?
16 gigabytes of RAM is a great starting point for graphic designers.
Okay.
It allows you to multitask, efficiently run multiple design applications simultaneously, and work with large files without experiencing lag or slowdowns. You can get away with 8 megabytes, but 16 gigabyte will give you more headroom and future-proof your investment.
Speaking of future-proofing, let's talk storage. Graphic design files can take up a lot of space, especially if you're working with high-resolution images and videos.
Absolutely.
What type of storage is best for graphic designers, and how much do you really need?
This is where things get interesting.
Okay.
Traditional hard disk drives, HDDs, are affordable but slow, which can lead to frustrating wait times when opening and saving files.
Yeah.
Solid-state drives, SSDs, on the other hand, are much faster,
Okay.
but also more expensive. For graphic designers, an SSD is definitely worth the investment.
Right.
It will make your laptop feel snappier and more responsive, especially when working with large files.
So when we see those eMMC storage options in laptops like the HP Stream, that's essentially a red flag for graphics designers.
Pretty much. eMMC is a type of flash storage that's cheaper and slower than a traditional SSD.
Okay.
It's fine for basic tasks,
Right.
but it can be a bottleneck for graphic design work.
Okay, so SSD is the way to go. But how much storage do you recommend?
Ideally, aim for at least 512 gigabytes of SSD storage.
Okay.
This will give you ample space for your operating system, design applications, and project files.
Gotcha.
You can always supplement with external hard drives or cloud storage if needed.
Okay.
Remember, it's always better to have more storage than you think you need.
That's good advice, yeah.
And what about those NVIDIA GeForce RTX graphics cards that we keep seeing?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
How important are they for graphic design?
Graphics cards are essential for graphic design,
Okay.
especially if you're working with 3D models, video editing, or any kind of visual effects.
Right.
They handle the heavy lifting when it comes to rendering images and displaying your work smoothly. The higher the number on the RTX card, the more powerful it is.
Right.
For example, an RTX 4060 is more powerful than an RTX 3050 Ti.
So for those everyday graphic design tasks like creating logos, brochures, or social media graphics, would an RTX 3050 Ti be sufficient?
It would definitely get the job done. But if you can afford to step up to an RTX 4050 or 4060, you'll have more power and headroom for future projects.
Sure.
Plus, those higher-end cards will make your design software run even smoother,
Right.
which can boost your productivity.
Now let's talk about displays. We've seen some laptops with incredibly high refresh rates, like 144 hertz or even 165 hertz.
Yeah.
Is that something graphic designers need to worry about?
Those high refresh rates are fantastic for gaming because they create a smoother, more responsive gaming experience.
Right.
However, for graphic design, refresh rate isn't as crucial as other display factors.
Gotcha.
Like resolution, color accuracy, and viewing angles.
Okay, so break it down for us. What should graphic designers look for in a laptop display?
First and foremost, you want a display with a high resolution, at least full HD, 1920 by 1080.
Okay.
A higher resolution will give you more screen real estate to work with and display your designs in more detail. The Liquid Retina display in the MacBook Air, for example, offers a stunning resolution that's perfect for graphic design.
And what about color accuracy? Isn't that crucial for ensuring your designs look the same on screen as they do in print?
Absolutely. Color accuracy is paramount for graphic designers.
Okay.
You want a display that can accurately reproduce the colors you intend without any weird tints or shifts. Look for laptops that mention color gamut coverage, ideally 100% RGB, or even DCI-P3, which is a wider color space used in professional video editing.
So how can our listener tell if a laptop's display is up to par for professional level graphic design?
A quick Google search for laptop model name plus color gamut can reveal a lot.
Gotcha.
You can also look for reviews from websites and publications that specialize in testing and analyzing laptop displays.
Makes sense.
Pay attention to terms like color accuracy, delta E, and color calibration.
Okay, so we've covered the core components: processor, RAM, storage, graphics card, and display. What about those extra features like touchscreens and two-in-one functionality?
Right.
Are those gimmicks or genuine assets for graphic designers?
That's a great question. Touchscreens can be incredibly useful for certain design tasks,
Okay.
especially if you're into digital illustration or enjoy using a stylus for sketching and note-taking. A two-in-one laptop, which can transform into a tablet, can offer a more versatile and intuitive design experience.
But we did see some mixed reviews about the reliability of touchscreens and hinges, especially on the Lenovo Flex 5.
That's true. Not all touchscreens and hinges are created equal.
Right.
If you're considering a two-in-one laptop, do your research
Okay.
and look for models that have a solid track record of reliability.
So while those extra features can enhance the design experience, they shouldn't be the primary deciding factors
Right.
when choosing a laptop.
Exactly. The core components we discussed earlier will have a much bigger impact on your day-to-day design workflow.
Now let's talk about those user reviews that mentioned overheating the black screen at death and other potential issues. Should our listener be worried about these isolated incidents?
User reviews can be a valuable source of information.
But it's important to take them with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Remember, people are more likely to leave a review if they've had a negative experience.
So one negative review doesn't necessarily mean the laptop is a dud.
Exactly. Look for patterns and trends in the reviews.
Okay.
If multiple users report the same problem, it might be a red flag. It's also a good idea to research the manufacturer's warranty and customer support policy.
Right.
You want a company that stands behind its products and is responsive to customer issues.
Speaking of responsiveness, let's shift gears and talk about software compatibility. We briefly mentioned Apple's closed ecosystem and Windows S mode earlier. How do those factors come into play for graphic designers?
Software compatibility is crucial. You need to make sure the laptop you choose can run the specific design software you rely on.
Right.
Apple's macOS operating system is known for its creative applications,
Yeah.
but it can be more limiting in terms of software choices compared to Windows. And Windows S mode can be a real deal breaker for graphic designers because it restricts you to apps from the Microsoft Store, and many professional design tools aren't available there.
Exactly. So if you're considering a Windows laptop, make sure it's running the full version of Windows, not Windows S mode.
Right?
This will give you the flexibility to install any design software you need.
Okay, we've talked about hardware specs, user reviews, and software compatibility. What's the most important takeaway for our listener who is on the hunt for the perfect graphic design laptop?
The key is to prioritize your specific needs and workflow.
Okay.
Think about the types of design projects you work on, the software you use, your budget, and your mobility needs. Don't get caught up in the hype of flashy features or marketing jargon.
Right.
Focus on the core components that will empower your creativity and support your design goals.
That's great advice. It's all about finding the right tool for the job, the laptop that fits your design style, like a glove. But what about that spark joy factor? How do you find a laptop that not only meets your technical requirements, but also inspires you creatively? Let's delve into that in part 3.
Let's do it.
All right, so we've talked specs, we've analyzed reviews, and we've even debated the merits of touchscreens for graphic design.
I have.
Now it's time to bring it all together and help you find a laptop that not only meets your needs, but also sparks that creative fire.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in the sea of specs, but at the end of the day, a laptop is a tool that should empower your creativity, not hold it back.
So how do you find that perfect match? That laptop that feels like an extension of your artistic vision?
It starts with understanding your personal design style and workflow.
Okay.
Are you drawn to minimalist designs or intricate illustrations? Do you work primarily with vector graphics or high-resolution photographs? Do you prefer a streamlined interface or a highly customizable workspace?
Those are some great questions to ponder. Once you have a good grasp of your design preferences, you can start narrowing down your options based on features and functionality.
Exactly. For example, if you're a digital artist who loves to sketch and paint, a two-in-one laptop with a pressure-sensitive touchscreen might be your dream machine.
Makes sense.
If you're a photographer who edits massive RAW files, a laptop with a blazing fast SSD and a color-accurate display is essential.
And if you're a motion graphics designer who creates complex animations, A laptop with a powerful graphics card and plenty of RAM is a must-have.
Precisely. It's all about finding the tool that best fits your creative process. And don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Right.
Just because a laptop is marketed as a gaming machine doesn't mean it can't be a powerhouse for graphic design.
So our listeners should focus on their individual needs and preferences, not on marketing labels or industry trends.
Absolutely. Once you've narrowed down your options based on functionality, it's time to consider the feel-good factors.
The spark joy elements. What are some of those intangible qualities that can make a big difference in the overall design experience?
Think about the ergonomics of the laptop.
Okay.
Does the keyboard feel comfortable to type on for long stretches? Is the trackpad responsive and precise? Is the display bright enough to work in different lighting conditions? These might seem like small details, but they can have a huge impact on your comfort and productivity.
And what about the overall design aesthetic of the laptop? Does it inspire you or leave you feeling cold?
That's a crucial consideration. A laptop that you find visually appealing and enjoyable to use can have a positive impact on your creativity and motivation.
So don't underestimate the power of aesthetics and ergonomics when choosing a graphic design laptop.
Definitely not.
It's not just about specs. It's about finding a machine that resonates with your creative spirit.
Exactly. And finally, I would encourage our listener to embrace the journey of discovery.
The journey of finding that perfect laptop match.
Yes. Don't be afraid to try out different laptops at a store.
Okay.
Read reviews, watch videos, and talk to other designers. The more you explore, the more you'll understand what features and functionalities truly resonate with your design style and workflow.
And who knows, you might even stumble upon a hidden gem, a laptop that you never even considered, but turns out to be your creative soulmate.
Exactly. So go forth and explore the world of graphic design laptops with confidence and curiosity.
Love it.
You have the knowledge and the power to find the perfect machine to unleash your artistic vision.
Well said. And on that inspiring note, we wrap up this deep dive into the world of graphic design laptops. We hope you've enjoyed the journey, and we encourage you to continue exploring, learning, and creating with passion and purpose